Welcome to Financial Confidence for High-Achieving Women, the go-to podcast for women of color entrepreneurs overwhelmed by their finances and ready to transform their money mindset, take control of their money, and build sustainable wealth. I'm your host, Taryn, better known as T-Money, certified financial coach and CEO of Money Honey LLC. I believe that abundance is your birthright and that good money management doesn't mean cutting out the joy from your life. Stick around to learn how you can build intentional money habits that align with your biggest lifestyle goals. Let's get into today's episode. Hey, y'all. Hey, welcome to episode 1 of the Financial Confidence for High Achieving Women podcast. I'm your host, Taryn, better known as T-Money. And today we'll be talking about my story as well as just the inspiration behind this podcast. And so really my money story goes from financial abuse and surviving that to being a full-time entrepreneur to now a rich bitch. Okay. So I really grew up in an environment that money was often used as manipulation. It was used as a source of control. And I witnessed, myself being treated in a particular way when it comes to money. And then I also, really saw that with, both of my parents. And so that was like the first thing for me where I said, okay, I know for sure I do not want to have to deal with this at any point in my adult life. And it's also where I started to see, that I didn't want this to be true for women either. And so that was kind of just the first little bit. It wasn't something where I was like, okay, from now on, I'm definitely going to be talking about money all the time. It was far from that. But it was something, that is a part of my story. And it's a part of the healing that I had to go through to be able to receive wealth and to be able to handle money in a way that, wasn't as stressful. So it was part of the journey of that. And, part of that story includes, or part of the financial abuse, I will say, like really includes, being in college and having to deal with eviction notices and not getting any heads up about that and then being blamed for it on the other end. That's like a very clear sign, especially if you know that you didn't have anything to do with it, right? That's like a clear sign that you might be in a financially abusive situation. And so, that happened multiple times. And, the agreement that I had was I would focus on all of my needs at school and then, the housing part would be taken care of. And that just wasn't the experience. And that caused a lot of stress while I was trying to focus on classes, just those sorts of things. And so the next part of my money story, after I graduated, I did start a business and I really thought that I was going to mostly work that on the side to have a little bit extra money while I was working full time. And I went through one holiday season. So I used to work for Target and I went through one holiday season and I was like, nah, never again. When I say working 80 hours a week for sure, that was a lot. It was to the point where at Christmas, Christmas is not my favorite holiday. Thanksgiving definitely is. But it got to the point where I was at Christmas and I did not want to see or talk to people. And I knew instantly for myself that that was not sustainable. Now, this is when a lot of people would be like, okay, let me just go look for another job. But I'm different. And I said, all right, so this business I have on the side, let me work my ass off and see what happens. And so at that point, I did indeed work my ass off. And I was able to do the thing that everybody talks about with entrepreneurship. And that was replacing my income and then leaving the full-time job. And so at this point, I was like, I did that. I made it. I did what I needed to do. And so I was excited, right? Well, then about a year later, I found myself broke. So I did not reach the goals that I thought I was going to reach or that I was working towards right after I went full time. And I definitely did the thing that I warn a lot of clients about now, which is once you leave the full time job, like give yourself some space to just like be and enjoy life because that's what you're going to want to do anyway. And so, at the time, I was not financially prepared for that. And so it just started to all dwindle down and low key fall apart, right? And the other thing that I started to deal with too, and this was like the next part that really stood out to me when it came to women and finances and even being a Black woman in finances was that I wanted to get some funding for my business. And I was like, okay, let me, call, I've seen all the things. They're like, call the banker and, start talking about things on the phone. Then you get in there and then hopefully you're approved and all of that. So I was able to do that. And I talked to a banker on the phone. They were like, yeah, come in. And when you do, like, we'll walk you through everything. You should be, approved pretty quickly. And y'all, I know you've probably heard of this, and some of you might have even experienced this, but I walked in and I said that I was meeting with particular banker. And as soon as they saw me, like they were smiling, I promise you, as they were walking up, as soon as they saw me, total facial expression changed. And as he shook my hand, he was like, yeah, so upon some further review, I'm thinking that we're not going to actually be able to help you today. And I'm just sitting there like, huh? Like this is a totally like different experience than I had when I was on the phone. And so, I was very confused. I was very hurt. That went on to happen at least a couple more times. And so I found myself at kind of like the bottom, right? And of course there was like some shame there, right? Like I didn't feel like I wanted to tell others what was going on because it was embarrassing, right? Like you did the thing where you replace your income. And so you're thinking like, yeah, everything's going to be great from here. And I got this. And to start to feel like I did not was really hard. And so from there, that's when I was like, all right, well, if I'm not going to get funding, I'm going to need to figure out how to start managing my money, how to start making it work. And so I did what every high achiever does. And I started reading as many books as possible about money. And I started to apply the different techniques and things that were given. And it worked. So it was starting to work, right? So I was able to save $2,000 in 2 months. I started to raise my credit score and started to have more income available to me. And so that was great. But then, y'all, the cycle continues, right? So as soon as I started to receive some money, I started to spend it. And really what I know now is that means that, or it meant that I was in some ways uncomfortable with holding that amount of money. And there was definitely some mindset stuff and some healing that I needed to do. But at the time, I started to get annoyed, right? So if you've ever been to the point where you're just like sick of it, like you're sick of yourself, right? In a way where you're like, girl, like for real, do better. That was me. And so I was over it. I only had to go through like a few cycles of the financial roller coaster, as I call it, before I was like, yeah, this got to stop. So the one thing that I was avoiding in all the books that I was reading was, you guessed it, the mindset work. And so I started to do that. I was like, all right, let me see what's good. Now, the first book that I really dove into that with was Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker. And that really opened the door for me about some of the beliefs that I was carrying around money and some of the habits that I had when it came to money. And of course, those differed from the things that I actually wanted and what I wanted to see in my life. And so I started to do that work. I started to, peel back the layers and become more aware of the different habits that I had. And as I started to do more of that, as I continued to do more of it, I discovered, that I was overspending because that's what I saw modeled to me. Right. And then I also saw myself not always kind of pulling out of my savings, pulling money out of my savings almost as soon as I put it in there. And I knew that that was something I wanted to stop as well. And so I started doing something where once I received some money, I just allowed it to sit there for a little bit before I spent it. And sometimes that meant that I wasn't going to spend it instantly. And the thing that I wanted to spend it on, I no longer cared about. And then other times that meant that the thing that I did want to spend money on, I was like, yeah, I still kind of want to spend it. And so then that was part of the progression, right? That's how we ended up getting to the point of really starting to feel good about money. And so then this was in 2017. This is 2018, that I set the goal to travel 3 times in the year. So once per quarter. And so at that time, I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. I was already feeling comfortable with saving. And so I started to have a travel account and I was putting money away there. And y'all, not only did I meet that goal, but I ended up traveling 9 times. That was really the catalyst to feeling confident about money and becoming more confident with money and starting to trust myself more, starting to see that, yeah, I can really hit these goals that I set when it comes to my finances. And so, of course, I went on to raise my credit score 240 points. I then paid off about $20,000 in debt in under 2 years. So, those things started to add up. They started to happen. I started investing. I was organizing my money better at that point. And part of it, yes, was the mindset. And then also part of it was that strategy. And that's why, as a financial coach, I'm all about doing both. It takes more than just the strategy because then, like I said, otherwise you end up in that space of no matter how much money you have, it is fluctuating because you're not able to truly get a handle on it, truly be okay with receiving more. And so that's why I combine it with the habits, with the mindset work, with some somatic practices, because even when it comes to that, a lot of the habits and feelings we have around money, those are stored in our body because when we're kids, we are not always able to articulate what we are feeling or experiencing. And so a lot of the work that I do with clients is, getting the strategy part in place. And then as they are working the strategy, starting to address those beliefs that they are working against them to achieve the goals that they want to achieve. And so that's a big thing. I feel like that is most of the story, So all of those experiences really contributed to my mission, which is to see women win with wealth. Because even for myself, as I started to become more wealthy, as I started to have more money, I started donating more to causes that I'm really excited about and that I really believe in. I started to, support the dreams of other people in my community, by hiring, being able to hire a team, being able to pay other people, that definitely helps to stimulate the economy, helps to, add to somebody else's dream, things like that, where it became about more than, just having the money itself. And so what I love about working with other women is that we truly add value to our families, our communities, and the world when we have more wealth, when we have more money. And so that is why I'm dedicated and passionate about working with women to do that, to feel good about spending money, to not have the guilt there, to not have the anxiety, the shame, the stress, like, oh my God, the stress is the worst. So to not have that is so important. And so as I, start to wrap up here, what you can expect from this podcast is practical action steps and deep insights to shift your mindset and transform your relationship with money. So you can make powerful, aligned money moves and build the wealth and confidence to create the life you truly desire. So that's what we're up to here. And I want to thank you for joining me on this first, episode, like the first of many. How exciting. Like, I don't know. I'm real lit and excited about it. And in addition to that, just want to let you know, we have a couple exciting episodes coming up. So one about, the idea of expansion when it comes to your money versus cutting all of your expenses and everything out. And then also, where we're looking for advice when it comes to our finances. So I often have clients who are coming to me like, okay, what are the right steps to take? What are the things I need to do next? When truthfully, one of the best things we can do is look inside ourselves and connect with what we truly want and then take action with our finances from that space. And so again, thank you so much for being here for episode 1, and I will catch you in the next one. Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Financial Confidence for High Achieving Women podcast. I hope the insights shared in this episode have inspired you to take one small action step toward a more empowered relationship with money. If you're ready to take control of your finances like the rich bitch you are, I invite you to book a 90-minute Organize Your Money Honey intensive with me. You'll walk away with a crystal clear financial plan, a budget you'll actually stick to, and actionable steps to start saving and investing faster. Head to the link in the show notes to book your spot. I'm so grateful to be part of your financial journey, and I can't wait to see all the incredible moves you'll make. Thank you for listening, and I'll catch you in the next episode.